We are the one, the light in the dark. One heart, one world, one spark. We are the one, together we rise. One dream, one voice, one sky.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our third episode of an amazing podcast. Absolutely amazing. Women empowered across the world. And guys, this is where we get to tell our stories. We get to be real, we get to be authentic, and we get to come from our hearts. And we have our guest host today, Jacque Zoccoli, is going to share her story with us. And guys, I know a little bit about her story and it's very inspiring. So we are so excited to have Jacque on with us today. And we have Wumi from Nigeria. We have Susie she was from Africa and she now lives in Kentucky. And we have Renata, who is now in the US, but from Brazil. And then we have Jacque, who is in the US in Arizona. And myself, Florida. So we have a broad spectrum of women and different cultures. And that's what makes this such a special podcast. So, Jacque, come and inspire us with your story.
Thank you, Carol. You are amazing. I just adore all the women on this screen, and it's such a beautiful beginning and such a fulfilling way of seeing that really that's what it's all about for me. Is my purpose is to bring women together specifically in so many areas. Well, if you were to really start from the beginning, and I laugh because my mentor always says, don't start to the day your mother had you and what she wore. I don't want to hear that. And so I will not start that far back. However, I will start when I was 6. When I was 6, my father passed, and it was somewhat traumatic for me. Well, at age 6, what do you know, right? And at that point, God said to me, I was right then. God said, "This is the worst that will happen to you. I will take care of you the rest of your life." So I went through life with that assurance that things are going to be taken care of. That's the way it was. So that really was the pivotal point in my early life. However, my mother then, now a widow and taking care of my brother, 8 years older than I, exactly on the same day. In other words, we were born the same day, 8 years apart, on a holiday because my father couldn't take off other than a holiday. He was a dentist. So anyhow, she took care of both of us and really started what I call the groundwork, developing the soil, actually getting that soil so that it was rich and ready for the rest of its life. And that she gave to me in that she had me joining Girl Scouts, Job's Daughters. I was doing all types of groups of leadership roles, of scared to death to talk. And Job's Daughters, I can remember that. That was traumatic. And look what it did. Certainly overcame that one. And so the groundwork was being prepared. The tree began to be planted when I went to college. And in college, I was in a sorority, Kappa Delta sorority. And from that experience, the tree began to branch. And I'm still talking to those women some 60 years later. Anyhow, the branch was 2 branches. There were 2 branches. The first branch was sorority sister introduced me to my first husband. And from that, produced 2 children that I adore today, and in their 50s. And then the other branch was a sorority sister who was in the Peace Corps. And so she impressed my husband and I to go into that. We could always teach. We could always teach, but we couldn't always teach overseas. So it became very logical that we would do that. So the first branch of the family, from there, I began to, when we returned, I went to the corporate life enough to realize I didn't want to play there. I started my own business. when I started my own business in desktop publishing, whatever you guys aren't old enough, Carol is, to know what that term means. And I taught PageMaker and CorelDRAW in the community college system. And I was, and it was, by the way, that those softwares are to create marketing materials. So I was sitting in the conference room in Fremont, California, and looking around, and I said, and a Chamber of Commerce, and I said, I don't want to pay $250 for a plaque on my wall. I'm not getting anything out of $250. So I began to look around and realized that the way people were relating to each other to get business was all backwards. They weren't building their relationships. They were just trying to throw their products at you. And I didn't want to buy their insurance. I didn't want to buy their supplements. I didn't want to have to do that. So I began a whole new crusade, so to speak, a whole new coaching area in my life based on people's needs as well as their expertise. When I could figure out their expertise and their needs, I didn't have to buy the product. All I had to do was to logically find somebody to fill the need. And I thought, well, okay, that sounds like a customer. No, who's going to fill their need would be someone going in the same direction, who has the same target audience. They don't compete, they complete. Convincing people of that's been a challenge. However, that was the philosophy and is the philosophy. So as I began to work with people in the Bay Area, I created networking groups. The one in Fremont, believe it or not, is still going after 30 years. And it's to be able to teach them how to build relationships. I went through the chambers of commerce and created about 10 groups in the Bay Area. And it began my whole concept of being able to teach people how to do that. Well, as I left the Bay Area and went to Arizona, the cry was, what do we do with referrals? You gotta be kidding. What do we do with referrals? So I left them thinking there has to be more to this story. As I got to Arizona and began showing people that the alliances were probably sitting in their own database, they just hadn't related to the guy that bought the widget, that they could probably go in the same direction. Why don't you look at them as an alliance? And then what happened was that I got people that said their database was in a shoebox or a drawer. And I said, no, I can't work with that. So I began to become very familiar with something called LinkedIn. And LinkedIn has only 1 billion members, a large enough database to be able to work with for anyone in the world. So I began to use LinkedIn in all that I was doing, enough to be able to show people a simplistic way to intentionally find the people that they want and how to engage with them so it becomes profitable. Very simple. So let's look at that chain and what happened then in 2015. We're flipping over to the other branch. I'd been, since the Peace Corps, really hadn't thought much about global. I did in LinkedIn. However, I really didn't think much about what I could do in that area until about 2015. 2015, I met up with a gal. Actually, I was creating a networking group for holistic coaches at the time. I met up with her, and she's what I call an indigo, and she's here for the second time. She knows what's happening, and she is here to make sure it does, so to speak. And she looked at me and she said, you don't know, do you? And I said, what don't I know? She says, you're here to change humanity. I said, what? Well, I cried all the way home. And when I got home, I realized that my mantra was that my age justifies my wisdom. My developed clarity teaches the excitement of awareness and ignites the spark of action and change. And from then on, everything changed. Absolutely everything. I ran into a gal by the name of Dr. Paula Fellingham. and she created the the International Youth Parliament, and that's a group of young people from 16 to 29-year-olds, and they're in countries all over the world, and their whole purpose is to work through the UN SDGs to be able to increase love, prosperity, and peace. So we mentored them. I said, yes, I want to be part of that. And I began mentoring those young people and still do to a large degree. And I talked to Pakistan. I said, what do you need? Who do you need? Oh, well, we need water, we need food, we need how, the whole basic thing. So I left that conversation and I thought, God, I know the answer to all of those things. I have people in all of those areas. What the heck am I supposed to do? Well, again, the answer came to me, and God said, well, why don't you start with literacy and start local? And I thought, well, I guess I could do that. Let's figure that one out. At that point, I had actually conceived of the idea of manifesting global solutions group. And that was many years ago, about 7 years ago, though I didn't do anything much with that until I ran into Footsteps to Brilliance. Footsteps to Brilliance is the gamified literacy app that takes the child through 8 learning modalities to 3rd grade level in 90 days. Get a grip how that will change humanity. So though I didn't do much locally with it, my desire at that point was, let's take this global. So the next one I ran into was a woman by the name of Honorable Yvonne Gamble. And she had Lifesavers Ambassadors International, a women's group, to be able to establish women's projects all over the world. A delightful group. And I said, Yvonne, I want to take Footsteps into all the countries. She says, well, sure. How about 30,000 tablets, 150,000 children, 10 countries? I said, that's a great start. I think that'll make a big enough impact. Well, she had a funding source, her own business. However, between COVID and the attempt at World War III, we did not get the funding for that. However, the 10 countries were established and ready to go. So I said, we've got to find some other way. So I thought, let's just go to those that already have devices. Well, that kind of worked. We didn't quite get them in there. So I went back to Liberia virtually and where I was in the Peace Corps. And I said, what do you have and do you want Footsteps? Oh, yes, we would love to have Footsteps. We don't have any computers. I don't know what we can do. And I said, well, do you have cell phones? Oh, yeah, we have cell phones. I said, okay, how about we get a projector and attach it to the cell phone and now be able to give it to a classroom? And they said, yeah, we can do that. We can do that. So I thought, okay, of course they said can't afford the projector. And I said, okay, end of the story. Let's now make you self-sustainable. Self-sustainable. Do you have women that are creating country cloth or baskets or whatever? Oh yeah, we have those. I said, okay, how about we create the Impactful Artisan Network? Now, Renata will say, I haven't heard you say Spirit of the Game yet, but Spirit of the Game came in about, it's been about 3 years almost, I guess. I can't remember the exact time. Spirit of the Game is a group that Renata and I and Carol and Susie at some point will all be part of because I'm doing my best to bring in. Anyhow, it's an umbrella of networks. And under the Impactful Women's Network that Renata and I are working with, Renata mostly, we want to have the women's development in the community. I have someone that can coach them on creating a place in Etsy for those crafts. and at that point make enough money to be able to get the projector and to have the classroom and the entire population actually educated. So that presently is still the plan. However, as I move from country to country, what I have found is, am I able to share? Yeah, I am. Good job, Carol. You're so good. I have created what is called the Global Impact Network. And that pretty much spells it all out. The people that are on the ground are the ones that you would understand the impactful anything is spirit of the game. International Youth Parliament is where I started. And the woman that is doing the global network, which we will align with at some point, definitely is going with women's groups all in each country and finding out what part of the UN SDGs they're working with and making them accountable and feeding that to the UN. So that will be very impactful in what we're doing. And then the refugee camps. And I'm still kind of cultivating that. But all of these people down here in the second level are the ones that are working with the ground, the people on the ground that are underserved, all the people that you guys work with, literally. And the tools that I'm using to sustain that and to bring in the sustainability and the resources are in the pillars of literacy, wellness, environment, and employment. So as in 2015, or 16 it was when I talked to World Spirit International Youth Parliament, I had these 4 areas figured out. I had them understood. I was going to get consultants for each of those areas. I was going to have a funding source for all that until finally I was told, God said, the literacy is where you start. So I've kind of played that in my mind for many years, though never figured out how to use it. So what does all of this mean? What it means that in each one of these pillars, as it grows with the people that are involved in those areas, I'm able to address that main population that's totally underserved in whatever country happens to be part of it. I would like to systematically take that all over Africa to be starting with, and eventually go to all the other countries. And so who comes into this picture? But innocent and ever bright Carol Witt with the Young Entrepreneurs Alliance. And this plays so perfectly into this entire picture because every Tuesday starting October 1st, again, I took the summer off, I will be having speakers for each one of these platforms until the end of the year. So as the speakers in literacy and all of the others, 3 of them probably each week, that's bringing together all kinds of nonprofits and others to be able to collaborate and really work in that area. And I'll have different ones each time. Well, we all know the youth are the ones that literally are going to drive our future. And so Carol is doing the next part with the Thursday as well as the workshops. So that fits perfectly into the youth formula. Now, Spirit of the Game has mentioned they wanted me to be part of being the youth, uh, the youth network. I want Carol to be that, and I want Susie to be that. That would be really strong. I'm just trying to figure out if there can be how that will mesh, because Carol pretty much has her own thing. Susie has her own thing. I don't know yet. We still have to figure out that, Renata. We'll figure that out somehow. So anyhow, that's pretty much where I'm going now. I have to admit, oh, and the other one that was threaded in this, of course, is Susie, because she's going to go the next step for the students to be able to get them to learn about agriculture, as well as Renata, because she's going to have them with all the planetary stuff that goes into that. So this all fits in beautifully. It really does. However, the thread through this whole thing is also going to be Abiola. Now, Abiola is Africa Network, Africa network of policy experts. And the policies in each of these countries, at least in Africa, when we get that strong and very in touch, then all of these can blossom and be sustainable. So you can see where I'm going with this and the whole concept of really why I'm here, um, and to be able to actually see what's happening. So that's kind of where, oh, then the last part of that formula, in fact, I'll put it up. Okay, the last part of that formula is that I finally realized as I looked at this entire picture, I've been doing the LinkedIn as one branch, I've been doing the global as one branch, and the two never knew they were there, literally. So I began to realize that most of the people that are in the global area, and don't take it personally unless it feels like it, have profiles that suck. Their profiles need a lot of love. And they once they realize how to do that, of course, affording me is the other question. I haven't figured that one out yet. So I've had 2 workshops, and the first one is establishing your essence, your global essence in LinkedIn. That went over pretty well. There were about 15 of us. The second one was the global pursuit in LinkedIn, so they can begin to see how that works. Now, this Friday, I'm really going to twist it around to the logical basic things, and that's the 3 C's of commonalities, communication, and collaboration. And I'm going to show you how LinkedIn works with those 3 areas, which are the core of my 5 C's. My 5 C's are commonalities, communicating the commonalities, committing to work together, contributing to that whole thing that you're doing. When you do that with an open mind, without judgment, and bringing your own expertise together, you get collaboration. So the 5 C's I've reduced to 3. I will develop those in the hour. Then by that time, these people are going to know each other. And the half hour afterwards, I'll put them together in groups of 2 so they really can make this work. I don't know any other way to bring this about. I'm at the stage where now what? So Carol has said, okay, why don't you do a workshop along parallel to when we have our workshop? So I said, okay, so it's going to be LinkedIn My Way is what it's called. And it'll be 8 sessions. And the 8 sessions will break it down into pieces, and I will have videos between times so that they can actually get the point and be able to test it out and then to work. I think I'll have 3 times. I'll have a group session in that 8 times, and then we can actually talk about the problems. Yeah, the rest will come to me when God's ready to give it to me. I
Wow.
can't think of any other things to do, and I'll try to figure out cost-effective ways for my global audience to work with me. I can't give it away. I just can't do that anymore. I mean, I'm doing it with a workshop, and that's more than I have done before, but I just have to figure a way to blend them.
So, Jackie, I have a question for you.
Sure.
You are the epitome of a difference maker on the planet. Everything you do, you make a difference. So, what created that passion in you? What was it that drove you to, like, everywhere you play in life, you make a difference? That's a special person on the planet. Not everybody is there. And not everybody wants to be there, but there's got to be something that drove you, a passion that you can't say no to. What was it for you?
I'm not really sure, but I would like to admit it probably started in the Peace Corps. If I really stop and think about it. Last year, well, not last year, it was a couple months ago. I was asked to be part of a Peace Corps event. Well, actually, they were gonna honor somebody, and I, in the process, had to figure out what I had gained from the Peace Corps, and that was a deeper dive than I had really addressed before. And I created a book. I wrote a book, and it was um, let's see, bridging the gap of my experience. And I began to realize how much I really got out of it. And probably psychologically, that's what started it. Though at the time, I mean, I'm a flower child, let's face it. Um, I, Peace was always something on my mind, always was to be able to do that. Now, once I realized that the bringing together really made it was selfish. A lot of it was selfish because I was able to see the brilliance of the interaction. So it made me feel good to be part of that.
Mm.
And that became it was addictive is really what it is to be able to see
Mhm.
success. And then when it was told to me that that's your purpose of being here, I thought, yeah, yeah,
Ah, it is
you know,
so your purpose. So your purpose. Okay.
yeah.
Does anybody else have some questions for Jackie?
Yes, I do have a question. Thank you so much for sharing, Jackie. Because personally, I can say I always thought people were the real asset somebody can ever have, but I never really knew how to put it all together till I met Jackie, because Jackie is the connection in person. I would say that because she has the ability to connect you to the right people, and you just go there at the right time and everything just work at the right way. I think it is really your purpose and your calling. And I want to thank you first because that opened my mind to the fact that
Good.
especially working with Africa, we know that we encounter a lot of problem when everybody talks about funds and funds up and down and funds everywhere. And people always ask me, how do you do so much without funds? And I tell them that you have to meet Jackie. She will tell you how to do so much without funds, because the connection, you just need to meet the right person that will do the right thing at the right time without you spending money. Or even if you invest your own money, that would be like a little, and you don't know what it will bring, especially when you meet the right people. So thank you very much, first of all, Jackie, for
I'm
making
so
me meet the
glad.
right people. It all started
Oh, good.
in this platform. And my question is, I think a lot of youth will actually watch this video and they'll be like, okay, we are talking about meeting the right people or meeting the right person. Somebody told me one day that my life is like this because I haven't met the right people. And I remember I told the person, it is not about you meeting the right people, but the people meeting the right you. So what can you say about that to the youths? Like, what can
Yeah,
you
absolutely. Absolutely. It's being open and actually manifesting in your mind what you would like to see. Now, I don't manifest all you. It's like there's a flag that goes up. You know, I can tell you there's cycles during the week where I have people that are just health focused. It's like God says, "Oh, this one will do to add to that formula." But you have to be open and listen. And it's almost like I was created with a any of you ever play with a game connection, and you'd have a piece here and you'd have a piece here and there, and this one matches that one, so you have to put them together. And they do that in Footsteps to Brilliance, by the way. I play in that game all the time. And the concept is, once I see, and thank God I still have my memory, I think, oh, that person was last week. Who was that person that was doing that? Oh, yeah, yeah. And then I go find them, and then I think, oh, I don't know if this is going to work or not. I'll just put you together. So it's almost like I'm obsessed, and I, because when people are on the screen, I want to see who the other half is, who it is that I can bring to you. So it's just something that was ingrained in me when I started out. So I like to explain it like it's a box of puzzle pieces.
Yeah.
And I'm the only one that sees the outside, the picture on the top. And I see the globe complete and whole and all of us working as one. That's the way I see things.
Yeah.
Whether I live long enough to see that, I don't know. However, I just know, and it's a constant quest. It's a constant look. I hear anything about agriculture, Susie's right there. I don't even think of too many more because Susie's impressed me. Then Renata comes in. Okay, it's a lot more with environment. My little brain goes, there it is. It's right there. I know that one. So it's a refreshing. If I, I keep saying, why don't you do a column? These are all environment. These are all the mindful coaches.
Right.
These are all the, and I do that every once in a while, but it becomes so technical. I think, oh, and then I got to do their email, and I can't find their email, and then I can't do this because I got to do it in a minute. But it really would be a lot more efficient than me trying to think, what day was that? I think it was last week. And I do keep a log of the people every time that I have a one-to-one. So that thing is pages long. I've been doing that for maybe 3 years, and it has helped a lot. And I can sort that, and I can do that by country. And I haven't had a lot of sort on it, but it's an obsession. So anybody can do this. And people would say, I'd like to mentor. How can I be like you? And I think, with your life, why could you not be like me?
Mm.
You've had experiences.
Yeah.
I started out with a gal in China. That was about 5 years ago. We've kind of drifted because she's had 2 kids and hasn't had time for me. And I know we have to finish up. And I thought, what the heck am I going to say to somebody in China? This young gal in China. I don't know what to say in China. I don't even know their culture. What the heck am I going to do? I don't know. It became so natural. She wanted to know my thoughts on this, my thoughts on that. She was struggling with people at work because the women were doing weird things and she didn't want to listen to them. I said, well, this is what I would suggest. What qualifications did I have? Let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, I have a BA in physical education.
And you have you have a master's in connection.
Yes.
Give me a break.
A
You have a
PhD.
master's in connection and relationship
A
building.
PhD.
Huh. And
Exactly.
community building. Yeah.
Yeah, give me
Yes,
a
we
break.
should award her right now. We should just
I
give her
actually
an award.
taught 1 year really in California in physical education. I tried to teach the girls in Liberia. Get me a joke here. You can see in Cameroon. Yeah, right. You're teaching the girls physical education. Are you kidding? No, I was teaching them everything else but elementary school is what I had. It had nothing to do with physical education. So the point is, you grow where you're planted, and it's exactly what you have learned as we started out.
Yeah.
We all have similar situations.
Yeah.
You don't have to have a cultural background. You have to listen. That's the key. You have to listen.
Beautiful.
That's the most important part. But anyone can do what I do. It's a matter of, you get me somebody on LinkedIn with a name I can't even pronounce. I am there in a minute. I am there in a minute. Because I know they're in another country and they probably need some help in going somewhere. So I start to mentor. It's just, so you can imagine why I don't have any time to myself. Oh, these, not to mention your name, Susie, which I don't even try to do your last name. But the point is,
Yes.
anyone can do that. The youth, pay attention. Learn Excel long enough to make a file of the people you talk to. That's simple.
Beautiful.
Put their country, put the area that they're working in, call it community development if they're doing the same thing you are, which is being able to teach the children, being able to bring the food. I mean, we know that whole scenario. Start that. Then you can sort it when people ask you. And then you can actually do something without a college education. You really don't need to. It's being open and aware and listening.
And looking for
Your
the
mind will take it back.
opportunity. And looking for
Yeah.
the opportunity, Jackie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, is there anybody that wants to ask her one more question, and then we have to finish our podcast today. So, and thank you, Jackie, for all that you shared. Oh my goodness, this is going to it's going to open so many doors for people when they see this episode.
I hope so.
Wumi, is there
Yeah.
anything you'd like to ask Jackie before we end? Or Renata?
Okay. Thank you so much, Jackie. Oh my goodness. Abiola told me about you, and this is the first time I'm hearing your story, and I'm inspired, really. I put some things, here, and I hope I'm going to work. Of course, I'm going to work on them. Thank you so much. Okay, so my question is now, you were able to do that from your own country, connecting people and all of that. And I love that you gave us gave us the backstory, right, of your life. And my question is, did you have any mentor growing up to grow? You are a mentor to many right now. So did you have a mentor? And then how did you connect with your mentor?
Yeah, good point. I don't have enough time to tell you all of them, but the obvious was the one that told me I was going to make a huge difference. That was the first, and she really didn't mentor me much after that. That was enough to get me going. The other one was Patricia Munson, and she has been a dear friend all my life since about 86. And she gave me about 20 different philosophies, and she had a women in discovery group. And on weekends, she would empower like thousands of women, and I became her executive director. And so she gave me all kinds of guidelines and statements that I could go on for a whole session on, that I continue to live. And she and I went through them together to be able to learn how to use them. And I have committed to her that whenever possible, I will include those in any presentation, which I did not at this point. It was a little too much. However, this may interest you, and you will be hearing more of it. One of the sessions that she used to do was called Male as a Second Language. And very, very impactful and so obviously astute. And it brings through what we were saying, that we all have it no matter what country, except the United States is a little bit stronger in what she said. With that session, she had created a book of it, and not a real book, just handed it out at one of the conventions or conferences. I have taken that book and made it digital. I think it's extremely important, especially in the United States, because culturally we definitely are different in male and female. I'm sure all of you know that, because of the traditions and because of that type of a background and protocol. However, the basic premises are the same. So I'm going to be able to get that published. She has allowed me to do that, decided not to license it to someone. It needs to be out there in full view, so that we can really see the differences. And it's not male bashing at all. It's just understanding how men think. They think differently than we do.
Yes.
And it really changes everything, literally changes everything. So thanks for asking. She was my biggest, and of course, Yvonne that I spoke of, and Dr. Paula Fellingham. And those two have been very formative in the directions that I've been. They seem to all be women, except for the footsteps. Dr. Spencer has been a mentor for me as well.
Wonderful. Really, really.
Thank you.
All right. We really don't have time, and I want Renata to be able to ask you something that she might want to know, and we've got to finish. So This has been absolutely amazing. And Jackie, I know you can talk for a long time.
Yeah, I know it.
You're up to. And we have an audience that I know won't watch over an hour. So, Renata, will you please come and just ask her what it is that you'd like to know? And then we will end our podcast today.
Okay. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing, Jackie. It's lovely. I could spend hours listening to you, but we don't have this time. So my question is, if you have an advice to the American woman and with the things you learned from the woman in different parts of the world, what would you say to them?
Well, that's good. She gives me half a minute to do this. I would say figure out what you're passionate about. What is it you want to have happening in the world? The visualizing and the awareness of that's the most important.
Yes.
And then to look, and like I did Saturday, I gave a talk on your passion and purpose. Look, and I'll make this real fast. Look at 3 of the areas that you felt were failures in your life. I don't have that word in my vocabulary except to speak to you. What did you learn about the 3? So they're not failures anymore. They're a teachable moment.
Mm.
Then make a list of all the good qualities that you have in this world. Once you have gotten that list, and it should be at least 10, if not 20, you can see the steps that came to develop who you are now.
Mm.
Take who you are now, circle the top 3, and realize what it is you really want to see happening in any part of our world. Locally, globally, the world is at your fingertips. You can go into any part of the world now.
Beautiful.
And then once you have done that, realize your ability to do that and come to me. I'll show you. However, LinkedIn has all the people that you need. It's
Yeah.
just learning how to use it.
Beautiful.
I hope that helps.
Wow. Wow. Thank
Yeah.
you so much, Jackie. Thank you for sharing your
Thanks.
story, your life with us, and all that
It was
you
fun.
are impacting in the world, all the things you have touched and made a difference with. We thank you so
thank
much
you.
for this amazing, it's going to be an amazing and inspirational episode. Going to be a little longer, but
Thank
it
you.
is going to
Yeah.
be amazing and inspirational. And so we just want to thank you for being our guest host today. And thank you guys, thank you everyone that are all of our hosts. Thank you for some amazing questions. Please guys, please, if you like these episodes, please subscribe, please share, please comment, and please come and join us again and again. And if you'd like to be a guest on our podcast, please reach out to one of us. We're all on LinkedIn. Reach out to one of us and let us know you'd like to be on an episode, okay, as a guest. Thank you once again. What an amazing experience. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
When we stand as one, there's no divide. Peace and love.